What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We have finally made it to the fourth and final film that I was planning to review this weekend, or I guess last weekend because it is now Monday. And that film is Opus, directed by Mark Anthony Green. I have never seen any of this director's work before. It comes to us from A24, and I feel like nowadays when people go to see an A24 film, regardless of whether they've seen the trailers or not, they have certain expectations of what it's going to be like. And this is a psychological horror film, and you could tell from essentially every piece of marketing that they've put out that it is very much in line with something like Get Out, Midsummer, Blink Twice, Don't Worry Darling. You know, the type of movie where the lead character goes to a secluded location with a bunch of people, things start to feel kind of off, usually there's a ringleader of the retreat, and slowly things begin to unravel before there's eventually a big reveal as to what's actually going on. Alright, so in Opus, there is this 90s pop superstar, Alfred Moretti, played by none other than John Malkovich, and he is like Taylor Swift level famous. This dude is able to get people fired up like no one else. But he winds up going into retirement for 30 years, eventually returning to the spotlight with a brand new album in the present time, and this causes a massive media firestorm. And he decides that before he releases this new album, he's going to invite a small group of journalists and television hosts to a secluded retreat, just like a lot of these movies tend to have. And what do you know, weird things start happening, people disappear, and his bizarre behavior and unusual demeanor is slowly unraveled as the film progresses. All of the reviews for this movie have pretty much conveyed this, but I gotta say it's pretty true. A lot of whether or not you enjoy this movie is going to hinge on whether or not you can buy John Malkovich as the biggest pop star of his time. I don't know that I did myself. He's just so weird that I'm like, there's no way the general public would find this guy this intoxicating. But I will say his eccentric behaviors and just the uncomfortable nature you feel when you're in his presence is entertaining, so I had a good time watching his performance, even if I don't exactly buy it under the context of the story. Our lead character, Ariel, is played by Ayo Edebiri. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I'm not 100% sure on this one. I've never seen her before. I know she's in The Bear, which I need to catch up on. I thought she was fantastic in this movie, and part of that definitely does come down to the fact that her character is the smartest in the room in every scene, because a lot of the secondary characters are idiots. But she has a little bit of depth to her. She's not just the vessel that we experience these horrific events through. She actually does have a little bit of development, because she starts out as essentially the assistant to another journalist, and she has much bigger aspirations. However, this is the point where I stop and talk about some of the other characters that go on this retreat with her. They are all just so damn stupid. And I get it, this movie's commentary on human behavior is definitely, you could say, of course, the characters are going to act dumb because they have such a blind devotion to this famous person that they're going to turn a blind eye to some of the weirder things that are going on. But it just really bothers me when the protagonist approaches these other characters with her concerns and they all just brush it off like it's nothing. For instance, there is something that happens to a secondary character around halfway through the movie, and it is such an absurd thing that I'm like, you cannot possibly sit back and think, it was probably just a coincidence. But he does. Another pet peeve that I have with this type of movie, especially from A24, is when it starts out as a slow burn and remains a slow burn until it suddenly ramps things up and turns into a drastically different movie in the final act. And that is the case with Opus. There are about a dozen location changes in the last 30 minutes, 5 different scenes that I would classify as tacked-on epilogues. It's a mess. I also don't think it's very scary. It has a couple of gory moments, some real gross-out body horror type stuff, but I feel like the suspense could have been amped up more. In fact, when John Malkovich was on screen, there were times where I just wasn't sure whether to be laughing or freaked out. It was a weird juxtaposition. With all of that said, I really like the ideas at play here. It wears its themes on its sleeve, especially at the end. I mean, there is literally a scene in which the eyes of Moretti's followers twinkle as they're watching him perform one of his songs. So what is this movie about? Well, it's about celebrity fandom, how celebrity fandom can turn almost cult-like. People will literally treat their favorite pop stars or actors like gods and would follow them off the edge of a cliff if they were instructed to. But it does also have some commentary about the symbiotic but equally toxic relationship between celebrities and mainstream media. I even think it's kind of a dig at Scientology, which I am here for. And as much as the third act is a giant mess, the ending does pose a chilling possibility and what it's conveying about the everlasting nature of cults and cult followers is disturbing. I just wish it was more compelling of a third act up until those last like 10 seconds. And they certainly didn't need to spell it out for the audience, because I don't like when movies treat us like idiots. So overall, I'm extremely mixed on Opus. I think it has good ideas, plenty of wacky performances, a great protagonist. Everything else, though, is a mess, and I just don't think the climax is quite worth the build-up, because it really jumps the shark towards the end. It did have one really funny line that got a chuckle out of me, and that's when Ariel asks Moretti, so you guys have a religion, right? What exactly do you do together? Because every religion has some sort of activity that they all converge together for. And he says, well, what do you call a religion that doesn't have some big event that they all get together for? And she responds with Congress. I thought that was pretty funny. I'm going to give Opus 2.5 stars. It does come close to a 3, and that makes it one of the most frustrating movies that I've seen this year so far, because I think there's a version of it out there that is so much better and manages to stick the landing after those first 2 acts of decent buildup. If you're a massive fan of A24 movies and you like 99% of their output, you'll probably like this too, but if you're more on the fence with some of their films, this might be one to skip. So those are my thoughts on Opus. Be sure to drop down into the comments and let me know what your thoughts are if you do manage to catch it. As always, stay tuned for more videos just like this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.